Okay, so rule one, eat the right amount. Rule two, eat the right foods in the right ratio. So let's talk about macros. What kids sometimes don't understand because of all the stigma around carbohydrates is the most effective and efficient fuel for energy, right? That's what your body relies on most. So your nervous system, your brain, your ability to concentrate, all of that relies upon carbohydrates. So what you're looking at here is you're looking at how the body uses fuel during exercise. So in blue is carbohydrates. In pink is triglycerides or fat. So what you're looking at is the percentage of each one as it contributes to exercise. Now across the bottom is exercise intensity or their level of effort. So what do you notice? As effort increases, what goes up? Carbohydrate use goes up, and what goes down? Well, fat usage goes down, and that's because it takes fewer steps to make energy using carbohydrates than fat. That's a long process. So kids need extra high quality carbohydrates. And unlike proteins and fats, unlike protein, I should say, you can store carbohydrates, but only in limited amounts. So you want to look at your body as, okay, you are a Lamborghini. You have two main fuel tanks. You've got muscle, which you can store some, right, for your workouts. And then you've got your liver, and that's to help maintain your blood sugar level so you can focus and so you can concentrate. But because you can only store a little bit at a time, you have to consistently refuel. That's one of the reasons why breakfast is named breakfast, because you break fast, right? So blood sugar is important for concentration, for not making mental errors, etc. So the key point here, you guys, you've got to eat regular meals to constantly refill your fuel tanks. And here's what it looks like when you have signs of low blood sugar. And Neal, you can attest to this, especially in the heat, and they're wearing your heavy equipment, right?
Yeah, so if you look at everything here, like coaching Pop Warner and in the heat, because we start our practices in July as we build through the season. So July and August are miserable, when it comes to the temperatures and so forth. During this time, every single thing you see here is all from just not hydrating and eating properly before you got to practice. Every bit of it. So there was never a time that this was 100% related to their nutrition before they got to practice, which is why I made sure that they would do everything right. And this is the kind of thing that makes a kid quit playing, makes a kid quit being active, because they got so tired, they just didn't feel good, so they didn't do well in practice, and go, Mom, I don't want to play anymore. I don't want to do this anymore.
Yep.
Okay. And that's what it does. So that's the significance of nutrition in a growing child. Make it proper so that they can actually do what their bodies really can do. So you avoid these things.
And what's interesting too, to Neal's point, is that if you look at some stats around injuries in youth players, a lot of them occur within that last 15 to 20 minutes when the fatigue kicks in, when you deplete your muscle stores of carbohydrates. So you don't want people to avoid carbohydrates, especially young girls. They're watching their weight. They might want to try a low carb or a keto diet. Well, if they're an athlete, guess what's going to happen? They're going to struggle.
Yeah, something bad.
Okay, now what this shows is how carbohydrates, a high carb diet versus a high protein, high fat diet will do to your muscle stores of glycogen. So as you can tell in the high carb diet, their starting levels of glycogen, right, carbohydrate stored in muscle, is higher than high protein or fat diet. Now, what do you notice with exercise? Well, they both get depleted, but look at the carb diet. You refill that tank pretty well. What do you notice about the protein fat diet? You don't refill the fuel tank. So what are you going to do? You're going to compromise your performance or your training the next day. And as you continue to eat low carb, your performance is going to continue to suffer, not to mention all the other things the kids need for growth and development and concentration. So you're going to ask if quality matters. It absolutely does. So nutrient-dense sources that are filling, you want to eat more often, everything on the left, right? And whole grains and are really, and grain products are really a good source of vitamins and minerals, particularly iron, which we'll talk about later, which are needed in higher amounts. And then these ones on the right, we're not saying don't eat them. Like Neal said, we're not these crazy, food police parents. We're just saying eat the stuff on the left most of the time and enjoy the stuff on the right occasionally. right? But to have them around constantly all the time, you're setting up your kids to creating some poor habits later on. So, fruits and veggies is not a sexy topic for kids, right? It's like they roll their eyes when you tell them to eat their fruits and veggies. So we want to make it easy. That's one of the cornerstones of making a new habit. How do you make it easy to do? Well, make them easily accessible. You want them on the counter, right in the fridge when they open up the refrigerator. You want them easily accessible. You want to include them at each meal. You want to add it to stuff, like adding it to yogurt and cereal and oatmeal and pancakes, and adding veggies into sandwiches like this pretty picture here, or sneaking into, like I sneak spinach and zucchini into my lasagna, or, pasta and omelets and wraps. And then starting meals with a green salad. You'll see this at Neal's house all the time. Go to have dinner at Neal's house, almost always going to have a gigantic salad that everybody eats from, as well as an extra portion of some kind of veggies. And then some, choosing a fruit-based dessert is a great way to show how kids can enjoy the sweet taste with something that's rich in nutrients.